welcome to the Let's Be Real podcast with Taylor Jones. Today we have the very goofy special guest, Josh Tipton.
Hey.
We're super excited to have him on the podcast. I've known him since high school, or actually even before high school.
Yeah.
I've known you since childhood. We'll just say that. We grew up together. And he's super, he has an exciting life, and I just love talking to him. He's super easy to talk to, so we are just super excited to have him on the podcast today. So we are going to ask you one question to kind of base this whole podcast around. So what is one thing that has impacted your life that could impact someone else's? And it could literally be anything, advice, anything.
Okay, so this is something I've recently I saw it semi-recently, maybe a few months ago. And I was like, I need to apply that to myself more because I talk way too much. And
Relatable.
Never miss an opportunity to shut up.
Oh, that's good.
So, or if you want to be kinder, more polite, never miss an opportunity to be quiet. But no,
that's good.
I like shut up a little bit.
Why did that impact you?
Because, I actually saw it while I was at work and with my coworkers. I work at a bank currently. Not much longer.
Yeah, you're like,
No, I've already put in my 2 weeks notice and everything.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But that's beside the point. But they'll be talking and I'll always put my input in, and I always say something, which is fine because we have good conversation, but I read this thing, it's never miss an opportunity to shut up, basically means, just listen.
Yeah.
And everyone's probably heard some form of this advice, especially in elementary school. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth,
Yes, listen twice as much as you speak.
Yeah, and
I've
you're
heard
like,
that.
ugh, you don't want to listen to it. But it just had to be said to me a little bit more blatantly.
Yes.
For me to actually internalize it.
That's kind of how you are. You're like, I don't want it sugarcoated. I literally want it flat out. Give me everything flat out, just straight up.
Yeah. So basically just, listen to everything, and your opinion isn't always needed in every situation, especially like social media. If you see a post that maybe you don't agree with the exact way that they said something, like, it's not your responsibility to go into, well, this is how I feel and this is what I think.
Yes. And I can relate to that because, like, I am such a talker too. I'm very vocal, which is why I'm doing a podcast. But I know,
we are.
Yeah, here we are. But like, I totally relate to that. And I've always been told, like, listen twice as much as you speak, because I get caught in that trap too, where I'm kind of like, oh, I constantly need to put my input in on this because I always have an opinion. Which, like, I've kind of realized, okay, actually, you need to sit back a little bit, listen, get that perspective, so you're not like, you can kind of humble yourself in your own opinions and maybe see something else that'll open your mind a little bit. But no, I think it's good not to just like jump on someone's back about something, just kind of hear their side.
Yeah.
And it kind of, like I said, it kind of humbles you. And like, Jesus said to literally like listen twice as much as you speak. And I think that's so like humbling, and like I just love that so much because he was such a listener, yet his words were like spoke volumes after he listened. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's really good.
I mean, we always see in the New Testament, like Jesus' teachings and everything, and his, depending on what Bible you have, even if you have the app, like the Bible app, what he says is in red. The letters are red. And we always look at that and we're like, oh, Jesus did all this. And, it'd be like Jesus. And if you don't actually pay attention, Jesus isn't speaking all of the time. There's a lot of the disciples talking, and then he says something at the end of their conversation that kind of sets everything.
Yeah, that's a cool little like way of looking at it. Like, I mean, I don't want to say it's rare in the Bible, but like it's scattered kind of when Jesus speaks, but there's Jesus throughout the whole Bible.
Right.
So like, that's so good. I love that. Who did you hear that advice from?
The never miss an opportunity to shut up.
Yeah.
I read it on
Oh, you read it.
It was a meme literally full of,
I think,
yeah.
A meme
Dude, if you know anything about me, you know that I love memes. Oh my gosh.
Some people call them memes.
No.
You're like, no, disgrace.
My coworkers call them that on purpose because they know it drives me up a wall.
Oh my gosh.
And then that's how a lot of people in Spain say it. They call them memes. And I'm like, no, No.
Yes, like, no, that just makes my ears scream.
Yeah.
No, so, okay, so I know you're vocal. You've always been vocal. But, like, something I love about that is I feel like you've always just been yourself, and you've never been afraid to, like, be someone else, you know? And I feel like in high school, like, I admired that so much because I was like, he does not give a crap, like, what people think about him. Like, he does whatever he wants, and it's for Jesus. Like, that's just how you always were. Like, you didn't care about the cool crowd, like, what they did. You were just always yourself. Like, what, like, influenced you to be like that?
I don't think that really clicked until it didn't like really click until freshman year, but it started to click in kind of 7th, 8th grade.
Yeah.
Because so I moved to Toller. That's where we went to school.
Yes, Tollerites, Tollerians, I don't know.
Tollerians?
I just made that up in my head. I don't know.
We're edumacated in Toller.
Edumacated, for sure.
Yeah. No, I moved to Toller in 5th grade.
Okay, yes.
And I was in Granbury for the majority of the time before that. And, you know, I thought I was like this big, like, bad to the bone. Like, I thought I was going to move into Toller and be the top dog, you know. And I got in fights and stuff a lot in Granbury.
What?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
That shocks me.
Oh, but young Josh saw himself as a vigilante, right?
Oh, great.
And then so I wasn't picking on kids and beating up like scrawny little kids that did nothing. Like I was Josh justified fighting kids.
Yes, if someone messed with you, you were justified in fighting them.
Yeah, I was like, I would fight my friends' bullies and stuff like that. You know, it still wasn't fine, but you know, little Josh thought it was. But anyway, so I moved to Toller thinking that it was going to be the same way. I'm like top dog rolling in. And I go from, you know, kids that go home and play Xbox in Granbury in Toller, kids that go home and wrestle pigs for fun.
Yeah, right? We ride horses to school.
Yeah, no, so I think I realized very quickly that it wasn't going to work that way. And so for like 2 or 3, 5th, 6th, and some of 7th grade, I kept, I don't know, looking for validation. Mm-hmm. Got so exhausting. Yeah. And, you know, I think when I just started doing the things that I cared about, you know, that were fun to me, and I found a group of friends that were interested in the same thing, and I didn't have to try and do anything.
Yeah, you didn't have to find their validation in being a different person.
Yeah, literally just having good friends was so much fun, and it wasn't emotionally taxing to try and please these people. It was just hanging out, having a good time, right?
Yeah.
And so once I realized, I'm so glad that I realized that way early on. Mm-hmm. Once I realized just how much easier it was to not care about what other people thought, not in the way of like, I mean, not in a negative way.
Yeah, yeah. But just kind of empowering for yourself.
Yeah, it was like
freeing.
This is so much easier. So I showed up, you know, and started doing my own thing, right? And at the same time, I was really at that point. I think towards 7th, 8th grade, I started to get involved in like the youth group at Toller Baptist, right?
Yeah, you were heavily involved in that for sure.
Oh yeah, until after until high school was over, until I graduated. Yeah. And so I was really heavily involved in all that. So it was you know, they worked together, like me being me and whoever I wanted to be and being involved and stuff and getting to know Christ, right? So it wasn't making an effort to look like a Christian. It was just actually soaking that in, and me being myself was also a way to, I guess, for a cheesy Christian way to put it is like to be the light. Yes. Right?
Oh, I love that. No.
That's one of my favorite verses. Light on a hill cannot be hidden. Yeah.
I just love that.
Yeah, and so, yeah, that was a really easy way for me to be me, right? Because there's a verse. I'm terrible about this. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm terrible at
You know how to talk
verses.
about the Bible. It's hard to just memorize what each book is, and
I'll often find myself Googling the verse and be like, "Oh, in Matthew, blah blah blah," and be like, make it look like I know. But no, the verse is essentially saying, if you're seeking out God, your desires will be God's desires, right? Mm-hmm. And so me being myself is a lot of just being, driven by
God's
God.
desires.
Right. But I literally wore pajamas to school for like all of junior year or something.
Yes, it was honestly so funny. No, he was just the goofball.
Dude, there's a rule in the rule book now.
What? Because of you?
Because of me.
Josh Tipton, because of you.
Yeah,
you changed school.
People, like teachers, and I think at the time, Mr. Morgan tried to tell me, he's like, you need to wear like actual clothes. And I was like, there's no holes in my pants.
Yeah.
There is like...
Basically like wearing sweats, honestly, let's be real.
I was like, I don't have any midriff showing, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Nothing like that. These are
for real.
As far as I'm concerned, this is a t-shirt and sweatpants. They just might have Mario printed all over them.
Oh gosh. No, I literally remember that. I remember him coming in his pajamas, and he was just funny though. He just like was himself. Like I said, he wasn't scared to be himself, and like I can totally like relate, like especially in high school. I looked for so much validation and like trying to be this certain girl that had these certain friends and like looked this certain way to like everyone. I don't know. I was just like, I feel like I was like just focused way too much on that, and it's just not really good for your mental health or anything, and like or your faith. Like you don't want to be fake in your faith. You want to be real. You know what I mean?
I straight up didn't care.
Yeah, and like once I got to high school, it got way better for me. Like I kind of realized, you know what? I don't need to find validation in like other people. I want to find like validation in like God and like what He says about me, not what I think I have to do to think about myself. Like I don't want to find my validation in other people, and that's just kind of what I was obsessed with in junior high. Well, I got to high school, it was a little different. I still kind of found myself struggling, like sometimes like I was constantly called a Bible thumper, and I know like that doesn't seem like it's like really impactful, like, but I mean it really like bothered me on the inside. I was like, oh my gosh, like is this how people view me? Like, you know what I mean? Like
you get so self-conscious.
And I got so like self-conscious in my faith, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong? And like but then I got to college, and it got way better. Like I am totally like, you know what, I'm a Christian, this is what I'm gonna do, and this is how I'm gonna find my validation in God, and like I don't care what you think. Like I mean, I'm open to hearing opinions and stuff, but like I know who I am, I know where I'm going, and that's all that matters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't wear pajamas to school like Josh, but you know what? Everyone lives their life in a different way, and whatever pleases you, I say totally go for it. And speaking of, so we went to like high school together and everything. Well, I feel like society puts so much pressure on like going to college, and like you have to do that or you don't have a future. And like I think the total opposite. I'm like, you know what, if college is not for everyone, like my mom didn't go to college, and she's so successful, and she's still an amazing woman with an amazing career and amazing life, and I don't think you have to go to college to be necessarily a successful person. Like that was kind of what I wanted to do, but that's not what you wanted to do, and I totally respect that. So like what made you not want to go to college, and was that hard? Like was that a hard decision for you to come to?
No.
Yes.
I think my parents kind of at first like wanted me to go to college, you know,
kind
like
of like
early
a natural
on.
instinct of society.
Naturally.
Yeah.
I knew that I didn't like school. I loved the social part of it. I love hanging out with people. I love meeting people. I'm a very people person.
Yeah.
Right. But I can't stand busy work, and I can't stand learning about something.
And like wasting $40,000 on learning something you're not interested in.
Oh my gosh. And like the whole idea of my first year of college being basics, which for my particular degree, I would not even use. And I understand the value of information. And it's knowledge is important.
Yeah, but theater class, let's be real, y'all. Theater class in college did not help me in nursing school at all. So just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, for certain applications, like you don't need these things. So and also spending a ton of money on, so like what I want to do, so I do, like my passion is sound.
Yes.
And you can go to school for that. There's plenty of places to go to school for that, and there is advantages to that.
Yeah.
But
you just didn't feel like it was in your plan?
In the first year, like it's the same with photography, right? If you're going to hire a photographer for your wedding, you're not going to look, I mean, what do? You go to their Instagram or their website and you look at their pictures. You don't go, well, what college did they go to?
No, that's for real.
If you're comparing two photographers, you're like, well, this guy went to this college and this guy didn't. If this guy's photos are better who didn't go to college, you're still going to choose that guy.
Yeah.
Especially if they charge the same amount. Mm-hmm. Right? And so for a lot of things, like, a degree isn't 100% necessary. And for sound,
I like how you pointed out, like, the whole photographer thing. Like, I'm not going to be like, what degree do you have? Because that's so important. Like, don't just go to college. Because if you like it to go to college, like, I mean, there's really important jobs out there that do not require a college degree that we need people to fill. Like, just like that. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things like that. So I love how you were just like, you know what? I'm not going to go to college, and, like, this is something I'm going to. And that's another thing is, like, if you're not going to go to college, have a plan. And I feel like you did. You were like, you know what? Like, this popped up in my lap, and this is something I'm so passionate about and interested in, and this is what I'm going to pursue. Like,
I started learning how to do sound when I was 12 at a Larry Joe Taylor event, not here,
my gosh.
But in Red River, New Mexico. So yeah, the sound guy, he was at the soundboard, and he was mixing, and Larry Joe Taylor, and I think the Tejas brothers or someone. There was a handful of people on stage, and he walked off. And 12-year-old Josh was like, well, I'm going to go look at all these buttons, you know?
Of course you did.
And so I
get
vigilante
Josh.
Yes. So I get as close as I could to the soundboard, and I'm like looking at everything, you know, and there's all these knobs. It was a huge analog console.
Oh my goodness.
Which it was
just
bigger than this table. It was wider than this table. And so there's so many things.
Oh my gosh.
And I was looking at it, and he got back before, like, he was gone for 2 seconds. Maybe he saw me and turned around. I don't know.
Yeah.
But he got back, and he didn't walk straight back where I could see him. He walked behind me and put his hand on my shoulder, and I was like, you know,
the moment of truth, I'm about to die.
Like, I'm going to die. I'm going to get my parents kicked out of this place. And he was an older guy, maybe 60, 50, 60. He was like, son, if you want to sit back here and learn how this works, and you're serious about it, I'll teach you. But if you're just trying to press these buttons while I'm gone, you need to leave. And so I looked at him and I was like, I'll learn. And he goes, and he said, all right. And I was like,
and that's how it started.
Yeah. And
oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah. So, and that was really cool. So I've been doing that stuff and learning a lot of it for a long time.
And I didn't even know you were one, but I saw you at my little brother's church camp this summer, and you're like, yeah, I'm a youth leader. And I was like, what? Like, how did that even, like, come about? And, like, talk a little bit about your church too real quick.
Okay. So I got back from Spain, and the church that I had gone to up till that point before I went to Spain was Toller Baptist. And so I was like, I'll just go back to Toller Baptist because I'm in Toller right now. And I was like, so that makes sense. And then Shane Brooks, who was the music pastor, worship pastor, whatever you want to call it, at Toller Baptist, had announced that he was going to go he was leaving Toller, and he was going to start up his own church. And so I told Shane right after church, I was like, hey, because I don't know why, I didn't even know that I was going to do it that morning, that Sunday morning. I didn't know until like halfway through the service, but like I felt called to go tell Shane, if you need help with sound, let me know.
Yeah.
And he literally looked at me and said, I'm letting you know. Like right then, I was like,
that's such a God moment.
Yeah. And it was really cool because they'd been putting stuff together to have a worship team and everything. They had nothing for sound. And so I was like, yeah, I'll help y'all for a little while until you find someone. And that turned into me being someone.
Yeah.
And
that's so cool.
Eventually Nimsy, do you know Nimsy?
Yeah. I love Nimsy.
Me and Nimsy she's one of my best friends. Mm-hmm. Probably like top 3. Mm-hmm. And she came eventually, like started visiting with us and everything. And Shane brought it up to me. We went to lunch one day after church. And he brought it to me. He was like, hey, God put this on my heart, and it's just a thought. I want you to kind of toss it around, but I'm thinking about getting, a youth program going, and I want you and maybe Nimsy to lead that program.
Awesome.
And I was like, not in a good way,
Well, yeah, that's a lot of pressure,
It's a lot of responsibility,
yes.
And I've been good with people my entire life, and I'm, really young, because at that point I think I was 19 or 20. I'm only 21 now.
Yeah.
But I feel like you mature a lot, for the first like 4-5 years after high school.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. I'm so, like, I just feel like I've grown so much since then.
I'm way more mature now than I was when I went to Spain.
Yeah.
Right? And so I was like, good thing God qualifies the called and doesn't call the qualified.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, we'll do that for now, and we'll see how it works out. And so me and Nimsy ended up, heading up the youth for that, and it was so cool. And I think it's so important to have a good mentor. Like Daniel Wade. Oh my gosh.
Yes, we've talked about that. Yeah.
He was my like mentor.
Yes.
And he would keep me in check.
Yes.
And I think it's so important to have someone that you rely on, you trust.
That builds you in your faith.
And you can be vulnerable with. And it helps when, I just got out of high school a few years ago. Mm-hmm. But I think being able to relate is such a big deal in youth.
Oh, yeah.
Because kids just want to relate to someone. Mm-hmm. And they're looking for validation.
Yes, especially, we talked about that, especially that age. Like. Yes,
and so, it's so cool. Like, it's one of my favorite moments. We were doing this one Wednesday night where we were like, we're doing a karaoke night. Like, we're not going to make y'all sit down, or we're not going to, throw Jesus at you for 40 minutes. Like, we're just going to hang out this time. Yeah. Because I think
grow that trust.
Yeah. And it's good to just have fellowship. Yeah. Like, we're going to do a karaoke night. And so everyone, some people sent us songs before that they wanted to do so we could approve them and everything. And no one wanted to go first.
Oh my God.
And I was like, well, crap. I was like, I have no shame. So I wung it. I think I did doing Never Gonna Give You Up, Rick Astley. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Yeah.
Giving us a rundown right now.
And it was the worst thing ever because I didn't know all the lyrics of the song. Uh-huh. And normally that would be incredibly embarrassing, right? Yeah. But it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Because they were worried about looking dumb. Mm-hmm. So I went and looked like the biggest idiot I could.
For them.
In front of all these kids.
Yes, yes.
And then people started doing stuff and having fun, right?
Yes. I love that. I love that you were able to kind of like you said, relate to them, and that's so rewarding for you. I feel like that grows you so much too, Right. Like it's kind of like you're another figure in their life that can help mentor them and build them up in Christ and have fun, y'all didn't have to throw Jesus in their face for Jesus to be present in that moment,
exactly.
So, wow. I really love that. I love that you're a youth leader. That's just so cool. And I think we'll end it there, but I think this podcast was just a lot of fun and lighthearted conversation, which is exactly what I want. And I hope
we could talk for 2 more hours.
Oh, literally.
No one would listen at that point, but we could just sit here and talk for hours.
For real. Yes, exactly. But I think just this whole conversation is just gonna kind of just brighten someone's day and impact them a little bit. Sometimes you need to shut up, right? Yeah. And it's so important to listen twice as much as you speak. And I love that you pointed that out and that impacted you so much, because just like me, I'm pretty extroverted and I like to talk a lot, and it's good to kind of hold yourself back and be like, okay, let me listen and let me hear this side, and to kind of humble yourself in that moment. And also if you didn't go to college, that is not the end of the world. If you have something else in your life, just like Josh did, you are still going to be successful and have something in God's plan for you. God has a plan for you, even if you don't know right now. He has a plan for you. And just like Josh, he ended up not going to college. He ended up going to Spain. It had such an impactful experience, and just kind of grew him as a person. And then now he's a youth leader. God called him to such greatness. You know what I mean? Right. And so I think that's just so important to know. Trust in God. In times when you have doubt, especially about going to college and stuff like that, trust in Him, and that's when the faith comes in. It's faith over fear, and I think God's got a lot going, and I know Josh has a great future, and I'm just so excited he was on this podcast, and I hope y'all get so much out of this podcast, and it was just so good having you on. Thanks for being on today.
It was good to be here.
Yes, all right, well, let's be real, y'all.
Let's be real.
so much for listening to this podcast. It means so much to me, and I have so much fun making these. Don't forget to follow my Instagram at @TaylorNJones_, and subscribe to this podcast, Let's Be Real with Taylor Jones, so you can keep up with new and upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening.